Welcome, everybody, to tonight's call. It's an emotional evening worldwide here. It is May 2nd, the beginning of a new month, and also following a national tragedy. And tonight's topic is self-sabotage, and it is led by an amazing coach, new this year to the Team Thrive community, Jen Cantor. And we're really excited to turn it over to her. She has an incredibly moving activity for you guys today. Make sure you have a pen and a pencil ready, and let's give Jen our full attention because she's giving her time and energy to all of us tonight. Thank you for pouring into us and showing up for us, Jen.
Hi. So this is not going to be our typical call. I'm just going to start off by saying that you can hear my voice, how emotional I am, just from everything that's been going on with the Mayron tragedy that happened. And I just want to acknowledge Donnie Morris, who's being buried now, and all the pain that everyone's going through. It feels weird to be continuing with real life while there's so many people who are going through unimaginable pain. And I wish us just continued strength and for us to never feel that way. But I do feel that there's no such thing as a coincidence. So having this call right after this happened and having me lead it, that's why I'm saying it's not your typical call. I will try to throw in Alana-isms here and there, but it will kind of just be a very down to the point, truthful call about self-sabotaging. Self-sabotaging can come in many forms. You can self-sabotage your career, you can self-sabotage your relationships, your fitness, but we are solely going to focus on nutrition and sabotaging your diet. And I don't mean diet, I just mean diet as in what you put into your mouth. So where do we begin? I also really don't want this. I understand that self-sabotage and emotional eating come hand in hand, but I don't really want to dwell and delve into emotional eating because I think self-sabotage is on a different level. Self-sabotage to me is kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a cut that you need stitches for. So yes, while you might get to self-sabotaging from emotional eating, that's not the main part of it. And so I was really thinking about this topic because I am a big self-sabotager. I'm human, yes, it's hard to believe, right? But I am a big self-sabotager, and like Alana says, if you're not losing, you're learning. And I have learned a ton doing this through 2B because I learned that I am an empath, and I learned that vibes of other people are real. That's why they say positive vibes, good vibes, affirmations, all these things really do impact you. And I was always in touch with myself, but I never realized that I was self-sabotaging, not because of something that was necessarily happening to me. It was things that were happening to others. So like when the 3 boys got kidnapped and killed and all of that, I actually went to therapy for that. Wasn't even my tragedy, but I had to go to therapy for that because I thought it was affecting me really deep down, and I didn't even realize it. And we got into it, and it kind of rolled into, she got it out of me that that's really what was causing me to be there. And I thought it was a thing that happened in my childhood, whatever. But when it comes down to what happened on Friday, I literally had such a hard time controlling my food on Friday and Shabbos. Today, thank God, was fine, but I had such a hard time, and I kept on saying to myself, why do I feel this way? And so if I'm not losing, then I'm learning. So I have learned, and I've realized today that my self-sabotaging 99% of the time is not my feelings from things that have happened to me. You would say, well, you lost someone, this and that. No, Baruch Hashem, that's not the case. I'm self-sabotaging over other people's pain. So now I can learn from that. So I understand that now about myself. So now I could take an honest assessment of what that actually means. And so this is not the part that you need to write down, but it could be part of the worksheet that we're going to go through afterwards, but taking an honest assessment of what that actually means, and why I persistently go through this. Like, it's not just like a one-time thing. When my kid is struggling and I know that he needs to go through therapy, he's having anxiety, let's say, I know that I'm doing everything in my ability, right? So why am I overeating for his pain? Like, it's just being an empath is not that easy. And I understand that not everybody is an empath. So I don't want to just harp on that, because I understand self-sabotaging is caused in other ways. Self-sabotage could be even not going into an event totally prepared when you know you could have prepared. When you know that you're going to your friend's house who literally has chocolate in their fruit drawer and is going to serve you deli roll and kugels and challah, etc., schnitzel. There will be no vegetables, and even if vegetables will be breaded. You could have offered to bring a vegetable plate, a salad, but you said it'll be fine. That's self-sabotage. That might be like, you know, when you lie by omission kind of thing, you're kind of like self-sabotaging by omission. But that's a form of self-sabotage. And once we take an honest assessment of what our situation is and where our situation will be, we can listen for justifications. Like, it won't be so bad. I'll have the breaded cauliflower. I'm sure she'll have some sort of vegetable. I can ask her for a cucumber, etc. But that's not always the case. So we have to just listen to the justifications, and then we have to ask the question of, do I really want to feel that way? And most of the time it's no, I don't want to feel that way. Lily, I'm not following the chat, so if you want to just throw something in there. And again, my mind, I'm just putting this out there. I'm not going to apologize, because I hate when people apologize. Just bear with me. I'm looking at my notes and trying to like form cohesive sentences, and God should be with me, because there's so much to say about this. And I really hope that I just get through what needs to be said. I've heard from many people, wow, Tubi is so hard. I have to constantly think about my food choices. It's so difficult, and they become obsessed with their food choices. And it really doesn't have to be that way. They're all about habits. It's about habits. So if you want your habits to become easier for you, you just have to practice those habits. Meaning, you can always learn from what you're not or are doing. So that did not make sense, but you got it. But let's back up for a second. I'm sorry. Basically, you need to give yourself time to establish habits. And you can't expect habits to just be, I was consistent for 3 days, 5 days, and then break those habits again. They have to actually be consistent habits. So if you are not plating your food, if you just say, you know what, I'm gonna have my vegetables now, and then my protein later, and then my FFC later, and then you can't remember exactly how much you ate, that's a form of self-sabotage. Because if you really want to make that habit a concrete habit, you will just learn to plate it. And so I've talked about this before on my Instagram about how I did gain weight while was going through a lot of family things. And I was being very mindful 95% of the time, but that 5% of the time where you're not being mindful is where those weight gains come up. And if I wasn't being mindful 95% of the time, that weight gain probably would have gone up even more. And so building those habits are super, super important. And kind of lost my train of thought, but we're just going to go into my next part of it, which was you need to identify your triggers. So for me, now that I know that one of my triggers is being a huge empath and feeling other people's feelings, I really need to be aware of that. Someone else's trigger might be, you know, a cake in the fridge. Someone else's might be Nutella sitting in there. And I'm not saying those aren't triggers for me. I'm just saying what my biggest trigger apparently is. And so we just need to recognize our triggers and then realize that we are not our emotions. It is okay to feel all the feelings. It is okay to say, I feel sad, I feel stressed, I feel happy. You know, some people self-sabotage when they're happy. Yoni was talking about that earlier today with me. And yeah, My husband and I always go back and forth. He's not a stress eater. I am a stress eater. And I'm like, you're so lucky because most of the time I feel stressed. So it's kind of unfair, but it is what it is. But then I also now, like, I was also thinking, I know this is like a lot of like random thoughts on my mind, but kind of part of self-sabotage, we are taught from a really young age. And this kind of goes into the emotional eating. And what do I mean by that? I was thinking about this. Like, I'm always trying to teach my kids better habits when it comes to food relationships, except something that's really ingrained in us. When your kid gets a shot, when your kid gets hurt, it's like, you're so brave, and here's a lollipop, here's ice cream to numb the pain, here's a cookie, now everything's better, right? You give them a Band-Aid and a food Band-Aid. And it kind of really scared me when I thought about that today. And I was like, I understand that food doesn't make everything better, but that's just what we've been growing up with. Like, and when we're happy, we go to birthday parties. Here's candy. Here, take a goodie bag with you. Here's cake. Like, celebrate the day. Here's more food, more food, more food. When really we should be celebrating the experiences. That's what Tubi's all about. We say, like, if you're going to an event, you're not going there for the food. Normally, you're going there to be with the people. You're going there to socialize. So why do we do this? Because it's so ingrained in us. So just like we're relearning our relationship with food physically and learning how to plate it, like if people have been around in this group for a while, my whole theme a couple of months ago was about plating our lives, plating our morning routines, plating our fitness routines, plating everything. And the same thing goes for this emotional eating and self-sabotaging. It goes for really understanding the depths of our emotions and not putting those food Band-Aids on it. So before we get to the worksheet, I know this is like a lot of random information coming at you, but it was a lot of just things from my heart. And I didn't want to just like be like, circumstances make it better, blah, 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 blah. No, it's really like, it's a very heavy, heavy topic. And it resonates with people in very, very, very different ways, which is why I want to do the worksheet. I want us to fill it out together. And I want people to actually share, if they feel comfortable, how they relate to their self-sabotage through food. So if there's any questions quickly that we want to go through before I share the screen.
Everybody take a second while she gets her screen shared. Get your pencil, get your paper. You can even do this in the planning section of your tracker. That's very powerful. If you have your food tracker, because depending on where you are, what time of day it is, maybe you have your tracker nearby, you could actually do this in the planning section of your tracker, and then you'll have it to refer back to, or a regular piece of paper. Take this second while she's getting settled. Thank you, Jen. I think everybody's been super touched so far. I know I have. I know us coaches had a call about this just to support each other right before doing this. And every single thing you've said has been spot on. So I'm going to mute myself. You tell us when you're ready, and you share the screen.
Wait, Jen, can I just say one thing before you share? Guys, really, like, if you've ever said to yourself, but I don't know why I did that, right? I mean, how many of us, like, I tried talking to myself through it or this, and I don't know why I did. Then let's do a proper exercise, because like we say in so many other areas, our brain wants to be put to work, and whatever question you ask it, it will go to, to answer. So if you really put in the work and don't do that cop out of, I don't know. I don't know just means you're not giving it enough time and attention. And it's hard. I'm not saying this because, oh, it's so easy to figure out why. But I think some of them, part of like what Jen was saying, and connecting it to emotional eating. And I discussed this with with a few challenges before. Sometimes the idea of self-sabotage, and when Jen was saying feeling our feelings, is there's not necessarily like a real reason why, but the reason can be I don't necessarily even subconsciously want to be feeling, or I have no control over the feelings that I was feeling. And at the end of the day, tomorrow it's going to be much easier just to be upset with myself and say, oh, why did I do that? I didn't want to do that. And it's almost like a distraction, being upset with ourselves. It's much easier being upset with ourselves for self-sabotaging than a situation that we cannot control, or maybe a person that we find that we can't speak out to. So the point is, if you've ever said to yourself, I don't know why, take out a pen let's do this. Let's really try to be honest, because as Jen started, this is so much about learning. Okay? Sorry, I just had a
no, that was good. I want to bring up a personal point. There are times when I send a yell at my tracker and she's like, she can pinpoint like when I was snacky. She's like, what happened? And often I say to her, I don't know. But now I have answers because I've really like delved into it, and like I'm an empath. So when my 7-year-old is having issues, I'm not upset about how I'm dealing with it because I'm doing the best that I could. So I have to remember that when an episode comes up again, I feel his pain of what he's going through, and that's okay for me. But I needed to learn that in order to recognize that now. And I literally only thought about this today. So this is kind of brand spanking new.
It's amazing because what Jen just said, guys, is that she now knows that that's what this feels like. Snackiness isn't snackiness, I need a snack. Snackiness is, that is the feeling of me feeling his feelings. It just feels similar to snackiness, but it's not actually snackiness. So great job, and I can't wait to do this. Thank you so much for sharing it, and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. So here we're going to start off with, what am I most afraid of or want to avoid? And I want you to think about that for a second. I'm going to stop talking. Let me just preface this with saying, what are you most afraid of, if whether or not it's succeeding? Like someone said, they're almost at their goal weight and they keep on self-sabotaging. So what are you scared of? Are you scared of being the skinny person that you don't know who you are? Are you scared of, you know, someone identifies as like, I'm always a big personality. I'm always the big person. How am I going to be the big person and the big personality if I lose weight? So think about what you're most afraid of and what you want to avoid when it comes to self-sabotaging. Give everyone about 30 seconds.
Jen, can I just ask for this to also then be shared later on, like maybe in the group?
Yeah,
because
yeah, definitely.
It doesn't have to be one thing. You can do this exercise now with one thing that's coming to your mind, and then you could do it again with something else. Because I'm sure we can all relate to having more than one fear or wanting to avoid more than one thing.
Definitely. But the first thing that comes up into your head might be the biggest thing, and then we'll work through that now. And again, you could do this a different time also. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. How do I typically sabotage myself when it comes to nutrition? So does that mean that you go for the Nutella? Does that mean that you go out and you don't have the plan? That's completely up to you. Go for it. Okay. Moving on to the next. How do I feel when I sabotage myself? I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but obviously when you're in the midst of it, you might feel numb. So think about how you feel during and kind of after. Go for it.
Don't forget the good things you feel. Obviously, you're getting something out of it. That's why you're doing it. So don't only look for the bad stuff. Really look and be like, what do I feel? Like, why am I doing this? There's obviously a reason that this is my go-to thing. It makes me feel something that I want to feel.
Sorry, 30 seconds isn't long enough, but this is like 3 pages long, and I want to get to hearing other people's stories and situations. What disciplines can I create now that will offset self-sabotage? Whether it's out of sight, out of mind, like someone said, or, you know, really feeling the feelings, calling a friend. What, if you can find your triggers, which we're going to do, what do you feel you could put into place now that are your disciplines? Okay. What would I say to myself when I'm aware that I'm sabotaging myself? I know that when I'm sabotaging myself, I normally say, I just can't. I just can't. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing this. So I don't want you to say something like that, but I want you to make it positive now of like, I'm aware that I am sabotaging and we are going to change this, not just a negative thought. Let's change it to a positive thought of what we can say now. Okay. We are going to create a I am list. And I was the biggest skeptic, the biggest non-believer in affirmations you can ever possibly imagine. And over the past almost year, it's just has really changed my life. And whenever I have a card that I pick randomly, it's so applicable to my life that day. It's like, obviously, you know, Mina Shemayim and all of that, but because I really truly believe like we are the thoughts that we feed ourselves. It's not only the food that we feed ourselves, it's the thoughts that we feed ourselves. And so when you say, I am a kick-ass mom, whatever you want to say, like you really start to believe that. And I noticed this the most when I started doing affirmations with my 7-year-old, because again, the one with anxiety and all of that. And he looks forward to saying his affirmations every single day. And I really think that it's helped him a lot. So take a second, create your 6 I am affirmations, and you are going to review these every day. I want you to check back in with me and tell me that you're really doing it, because it really makes a difference. Sorry, that was my chair. They could be one word, they could be a sentence, they could be something that you want in the future. 10 more seconds, we're going to go to the trigger management plan. Okay, so we said that we know that self-sabotage comes from triggers. Like we don't just self-sabotage on our own, something triggers us in order for it to then spiral out of control. So I want you to identify at least one trigger and describe the emotions and thoughts around it. It could be a physical trigger, it could be an emotional trigger, it could again be the Nutella that's just sitting in your closet taunting you, or it can be, you know, you're overwhelmed at work. One trigger. Okay, step 2. Identify what your preference to trigger is in conflict with. So what does this mean? Obviously, you prefer not to be in the situation. So if your preference is to then make a phone call, to walk away from the food, go exercise, do something else, what is your preference that the trigger that you...
Wait, Jen, at least
yeah.
for me, you blinked out. Can you repeat your last sentence?
Which part? Step 2?
Yeah.
Step 2, identify what your preference to trigger is in conflict with. So what does that mean? So you have your trigger, and then there's an action that you're going to take with your trigger, but there's also something that you would rather do, your preference. You'd prefer to be doing what? So name what that is so that you can actually call it face to face and spade to spade and be like, I'm going to get you.
Do you mean like your value? Do you mean like your value? Like I'm upset about this kid. I really want to be a good mom, but I'm not feeling like a good mom right now. Or you mean like instead of eating Nutella, I'm gonna take a walk. Like, what do you mean? Oh, sorry, I muted you by accident. I meant to mute me. Sorry. Hold on. There you go.
Okay. I think it could be any way you interpret it. It could be even like an action item of what you want to be doing instead, how you want to feel instead. You could then roll into step 3, which is identify what your actions or thoughts are when your preference is not met. So let's say your preference was, you know what, this kid triggered me. I really know that I need to go for a walk now, but your kids are still around, or, you know, you have homework to do, or you're at your job. You can't just leave. You can't go for your walk. So if your preference is, okay, if your preference is not met, identify what your actions will be in order to make sure that you don't get triggered into the other part, into spiraling into the emotional eating and self-sabotaging. These are not easy questions. I just want you to know. And you might find that answering these now are so far beyond your reach and scope of like understanding, but in 3 months from now, a month from now, a year from now, you might come back to it and see it completely differently. Like me learning that I'm a huge eating empath. And then it could roll into step 4, which is make a decision to grow or avoid it. So do you avoid your trigger or do you grow with it? Do you learn to live with it? Do you learn how to overcome it? Does it mean never buying Nutella again? Does it mean buying the brand that you don't like but your kids like? What does it mean exactly? Avoiding it or growing with it?
And guys, remember, a trigger doesn't, also like Jen said, a trigger can be a feeling or a food item. So how you answer this question, your decision to grow, avoid, or this, really has to relate to what you understand this trigger that you're discussing in this situation. What you do is going to be different with the way you answered the previous question.
Yeah. Obviously, you can avoid your kids for the most part. Okay, so after we assess our triggers and we understand what our triggers actually are, then we have the thoughts that go through our head. So we have to become aware of the recurring thoughts that do not serve us and list them here, i.e. Criticism for your body not being perfect and fluctuating too much. So all kind of your like limiting beliefs of things that really don't serve you, put down here, like just put them down. Try to keep it on the same topic as your trigger so that it all connects, and then you can continue this exercise through a different time of coaching yourself and walking through it. Okay. Remind yourself that these thoughts are coming from your little voice in your head or your ego, and they are not serving you. They don't serve you. Example, criticizing myself for my body is not going to help me become healthier or feel good about myself. I know that there's no such thing as perfect and that my body is not a reflection of how amazing I am. And that's the same thing when it comes to the scale. The scale is one tool of how your journey is going for you. So it's the exact same thing. If you think that I lost my train of thought, but basically these are thoughts in your head that are not serving you and just let them be, which we're going to come to at the next part. But we have to get curious about where they're coming from and why this should no longer have power in your life. My criticism for my body might come from my friends being obsessed with their vanity and dieting. I recognize that they spent way too much time and energy on this, and I will not do the same. So how you work through your train of thought also affects your body. So we have the triggers, and then we have the thoughts. So I'm going to just take my example, and then I want to hear other people's examples. So I wake up in the morning on Friday morning and see this terrible thing that happened. I suddenly take responsibility, and I feel every single mother, every single wife, every single child's pain. I feel the pain of the kid, of the aunt looking for her nephew, because I actually personally know her, and the thought of it. And then I heard this other story about this dad and the uncle are going to morgue and the hospitals, and I just feel all the feels. But those don't serve me. I could do chesed, I can do something productive and constructive, but I was going for the destructive. And that's what Alana always says about productive versus destructive. And we need emotional healing and not emotional eating. There you go, you got your Alana isms in there. But it's true, I really needed emotional healing and time to figure that out on my own, and not emotional eating where we went to the ice cream store and I literally was like the garbage can for my kids, who were like, it's melting, it's melting. I couldn't lick every single person's ice cream fast enough. That was not serving me. So I'm really curious to open this up to everyone else, to hear your stories, to hear something that maybe just popped into your mind now of like why you do self-sabotage. I see that we're going to run out of time. I don't know if people want to pop in again afterwards or what we want to do, but I'm opening up the floor for anybody to guide us along the way. I'm going to stop screen sharing. Hold on so I can see.
You know what, Jen, if we're going to do that, then let's give everybody a minute and close the recording here. So this is the exercise, guys. We're going to give you guys 1 more minute to complete the exercise. Then we're going to close the Zoom. Then we're going to do the second part of this call, not recorded. This is
so maybe if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, to ask now. In 2 minutes, we're going to close this Zoom, and anybody who wants to talk about their answers and share and be part of this community in the realest way possible, come back in for another, and we're going to limit it to 20 minutes. So everybody knows that they can. Jen, they would like you to please just put up the questions 1 more time. Share your screen. Anybody has any questions?
No, maybe, Jen, maybe instead of sharing the document, because it might be hard for people to quickly write down like this, put the file in the chat right now. So if somebody wants to quickly download it, they can download it before we go into the next.
And we'll also put it in the group. Don't worry.
Okay. Actually, Yoni, can you share it? Because I put it in our WhatsApp. I'm just on different devices, so if you don't mind doing that.
Guys, I'm really proud of every single one of you. And I just want to thank on record before this finishes. I just really, really want to thank Jen for putting this together, all the hard work and effort that she did. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving your time and your thoughts and your honesty and your vulnerability. It was an incredibly powerful episode that I think we're going to watch and rewatch, and people can really come back to anytime they're feeling, this kind of emotional pain. So thank you. We have less than 1 minute left, so we're going to end it here. Please feel free to come back.
I want to just close it out with saying, I really hope that you got something out of this. But the biggest thing I keep on reminding everyone, if you are not losing, you are learning, and learning doesn't happen overnight. So just keep on remembering that. It could take you years. This is habits that will form over your lifetime, and that's why this is a lifestyle and not a program that you do and you lose weight in 30 days. So just keep learning if you're not losing. And even if you're losing, you can continue learning. But